The last speaker on the first session is Paul Hardman again, and that will be on the food safety, the CGA's food safety and sustainability strategic plan. Thank you, Paul.
Opportunity just to share some ideas. I'm going to get my presentation here. I'm going to turn off my camera so you can see the screen. Yeah, so basically wanting to just share some ideas in terms of the CGA food safety and sustainability strategic plan in this session. Again, we don't have a lot of time, so just really going to try the headline aspects of the plan. So what is this strategic plan I'm talking about? It's essentially a documented plan covering what CGA will be doing in 2021 and beyond, looking specifically at the main risks and challenges that we face around plant protection products and MRLs, and then the broader aspect of sustainability. So clearly we've noticed there's been a ramping up in the last 18 months, just in terms of how our growers are needing to react and plan and just manage the requirements that are coming from regulators as well as from the commercial side, the retailer requirements. And so I've put this into a plan, and it essentially was triggered by the CGA board's strategic planning session in October last year, which really kicked the process into motion. Okay, so I'll just move forward here. Okay, so it's really a deliberate refocus and sort of pushing the ante up from the CGA point of view in this area, and focused around 5 key major issues. Of course, there are other challenges, but these are the major ones that we'll be addressing and putting some efforts into solving. And I'm going to just run through them quickly just to give you a sense of what I'm talking about. So issue number 1 is obviously food safety and quality assurance is the director within the department that manages the food safety portfolio. And obviously just because of the rate and number of so I see just this, okay, I was just checking that my sound was working fine. I think it is for most people, so apologies if you can't quite hear me, but hopefully it's coming through a bit better now. So basically looking to align basically the policy requirement or efforts by DORAD to what our needs are and what our trading partners are looking at. So just trying to essentially bring that DORAD a lot closer to what's happening on farm and the pack houses, just to try and get that right. And the type of issues I'm talking about there, where we had special requirements for markets like Saudi Arabia, the EU Green Deal that's coming up, we really need a strong government and official stance on some of these issues, hoping to bring the DORAD a lot closer to us and what we're looking at there. Issue number 2 is the slow product registrations under Act 36. So currently, as it stands now, apparently there's over 4,000 new registrations or amendments to registrations that are outstanding, and they've got some major challenges there. So that's obviously having an impact on the available plant protection products that we can use, and obviously, especially new chemistry, which we would like to see coming through as well. So that's issue number 2. Issue number 3, I'm sure everyone is well aware of, is just the retailer requirements. So over and above your regulations and official controls, you now have your retailers influencing your decision making by putting in special requirements in there, and that, as we know, is often not technically justified or legally justified, but it comes from a different perspective that is very difficult to understand at times. So we will be looking at that. Issue number 4 is the EU movement or shift towards basically a Green Deal was how they're sort of framing it, but it's really looking at trying to find a more sustainable future for Europe itself. But that's got very specific overreach or requirements for countries outside of Europe as well. So what affects us is the farm to fork strategy, and in the farm to fork strategy, they're saying things like 25% of food in Europe must be organically grown. They want to reduce pesticide use by 50% in the next 10 years. So these are the types of targets and language they're using in Europe, and obviously that's filtering through and having a direct impact on how we protect our crops. Also, how obviously we try to comply with our phytosanitary requirements, which we can't compromise on as well. And then issue number 5 is obviously the existing EU policy as well around crop protection products. So things like endocrine disruptive policy, which is now actually being implemented. It was an existing policy but didn't really have an impact. Now it's actually being rolled out. We see it having a direct impact on a couple of key active substances, which I'll talk about in a moment. So, in terms of what we're trying to do as well in this plan, is do a lot more analysis and uncovering or understanding the real underlying causes of the issues. So if you look at, I did this exercise last year and started to rate the various retailers on their impact on sustainability within South Africa. And for obvious reasons, I've taken off the names of the retailers right now. But basically, if you look at that chart, if you're on the outer circle, around about 180, that means your impact on our sustainability as a citrus industry is enormous. Whereas if you're closer to the middle and near that green circle, it's less challenging. And what I'm talking about there is how your strategy affects things like good agricultural practice, RPM, resistance management, etc. So this is all formalized into some score. And basically, if you're in the top right-hand quarter, you're requiring our supply base to be producing off an unsustainable basis. In other words, it's putting too much pressure on the system, and we're running into direct problems. Whereas if you on the closer to the middle, basically those retailers that are on the the left-hand top corner, then you're in a much better space. And I'll leave it for you to think through where your retailer might be, but obviously we're going to expand on this work and at some point try and make it more meaningful in terms of guiding growers and pack houses on how to operate. Another aspect of it is just looking at the list of crop protection products and how they are being put under pressure. So obviously we've got 107 substances listed in our recommended uses restrictions documents. Of these, about 30 are used with positive MRLs. In other words, there's a higher than level of detection MRL. Of the 30, 6 MRLs have recently been reviewed. So that list there in the middle are those we see are fairly stable MRLs in the medium term. We don't see them changing immediately. But basically, it leaves us with 24 substances which could be up for review in the short term. So if you'll recognize these as key active substances for crop protection. Obviously, some of them aren't being used, so we can actually filter some of those out, and then you really land up with a critical list of active substances which we need to defend. So if we just look at 2 there, Mancozeb, CGA and CRI with some key ACM partners are actually already in the process of defending that MRL, because that's now come under severe pressure, and if we don't do anything, basically Mancozeb is out for next year. Likewise, imidacloprid is another active on there, which is a bit more complicated to deal with, but is under severe pressure, and in all likelihood the MRL could be lost if we don't do something about it. And that's the exercise CGA and CRI are currently going through at the moment to determine how we proceed there. So we're under real pressure to look after some of these key substances. Just in terms of looking at the strategic plan, so if you look at what we've currently been doing at CGA, Basically, we don't have a very big media presence. We're not very aggressive in the media space, but we do a lot of direct work with the Commission and have meetings with retailers about crop protection products. In those discussions, we're not just talking about plant protection, but we're talking about plant health, and then also trying to widen the discussion into some of the areas where South Africa is very successful in having sustainability programs, environmental programs, and ethical trade. So we do very well on that, and it takes the focus off just crop protection. It also provides a more holistic view of how to proceed as well. In these discussions, we're talking about the science and good agricultural practice, and we're trying to sort of stick to the facts, as it were, and the real implication. What it means is also that CGAs not been stepping on the toes of the commercial guys and letting the commercial guys operate on their own in the discussions with the retailer. Obviously, we support them as much as we can, but we have been directly involved. But with the decision out of the strat planning session at the end of last year, the CGA board is saying we need to push a bit harder. And so what does that really look like? And if we look at these different issues, obviously we're just trying to close the gap between Pretoria and pack houses and farms. So we're trying to get Delrad much closer to us, and we're in a very fortunate position right now. Dr. Jabele, who is the agricultural attaché based in Brussels for the last number of years, has actually returned to South Africa and has been posted as the director for an acting director for food safety and quality assurance for the next 9 months or year. And so that gives us a good opportunity to actually start the ball rolling there. We're working with AgBiz and other entities like CropLife to address the backlog of Act 36 registrations, and basically looking at overhauling the whole system, not just sort of trying to patch up a broken system. So that's quite exciting, but we need to push hard in that space. Regarding retailer requirements, I did a last round of engagement with retailers last year. So with COVID, was able to not get to Europe, but in fact turned out seeing a lot more retailers. But essentially, again, we're trying to bring everybody a little bit closer together. That includes the research and expertise within CRI, bringing that a bit closer to what the exporters will be looking for, again, and looking into what the retailers are looking for. So trying to just close that space a little bit, be more deliberate about that. And one of the ideas is to introduce the Citrus Sustainability Forum, which will be operated a little bit like the marketing forum, but just around these issues, and just create a platform and space for people to talk through some of the collective challenges and issues that we face. So there's going to be a lot more about that, so just look out for that in the next week. Just in terms of EU policy, we do actually have discussions ongoing with our expertise on media strategy. So we are looking at creating a policy there that, well, it's already there, but perhaps more formalizing and beefing it up just to deal with some of these requirements that are coming out of the EU. And then on some occasions, we may need to be more active and aggressive in how we bring our issues to their attention. Again, but just keeping the discussion also to the point that we need to have a broad definition of sustainability so that we can take the focus of some of the key active substances basically that are under threat. Okay, issue number 5, just the EU policy. We are working with a number of stakeholders, as I said, to try and defend some active substances. This is a very expensive process. So within the new budget, we are looking to set up a provision within CGA to actually have some of these actives defended. We're talking sort of millions of rands worth of investment here. But I think if you look at the impact of losing some of the key ones, we will have to go forward and actually invest that money. And as I said, we're trying to create some key platforms like the Citrus Sustainability Forum, looking to hold the first one of those by the end of February. It's probably that last week of February. So look out for that. That's really just to give you So heads up, just to tell you a little bit about it, but as I said, in this next year, we're going to be beefing up our activity, and you should expect to see a lot more about how this sustainability strategic plan gets rolled out. So thank you, Hans. Much appreciated.